How he is the left, the left, the radical left. I'm talking about the SWP and all these other kinds of groups. They do the poor no favors because they're bigots who have a hatred of the poor. This has been made very clear to me all my life. I remember one time a while back. I grew up very poor, made my own way in life. I didn't grow up in a Cambridge, silver spoon environment where I grew up to be, some, leaving stately homes on the weekend or going to the Henley Regatta one minute and then going to the SWP anti-Nazi League, or getting my Israeli training or developing relationships with decent activist men like guys at the Keto Climate Camp and then calling them all kinds of names, or coming back from Israel and getting involved with some guy in the Cambridge anti-Gaza movement and then spreading it all over the internet what a freak he was because, driven to do that because you remember you're not a Nazi. Calling an Irish guy what did you call me? Oh, a Dublin gutter snipe while being a member of the anti-Nazi League. There's another cunt on this channel here who is calling me a fat Irish tatty picker and then claiming I'm a bigot. Typical lefty. I mean, this is what they're like. This is what they've been all my life. Now, when I was growing up in the ghetto in the slums, not a Cambridge, silver spoon environment. I mean, it's kind of like the real thing. Not romanticized poverty. Not, the Dennis Nielsen serial killing, necrophilic body chopper upper SWP type. I mean, a real poor person that doesn't romanticize poverty. These lefties were nowhere around, nowhere. And they didn't even bother canvassing in these areas because it was apparent that the radical left were very much a kind of an upper middle class thing. It was all doctors' sons and daughters. It was basically a cult for rich kids to develop a fake victim complex. That's the way I'd put it. And you would never see them. And when you go to the events, I remember being at one of their like demos, and I've seen them all over, not just the ones in Ireland, but all over the place. And you go and look at their table, and it's set up like the Moonies. You have the socialist worker, like that's their Dianetics, like, and they're all like this because they've all been reading hours and hours and hours of Trotskyite rhetoric, and it's totally programmed them, and they're gone. And they want your name and address, and so they can hand, who did they give it to? Never, ever, ever go to an SWB table and give them your email address or anything to put you on a mailing list. Never do that. Another thing too, they take over they're like leeches. They take over every single protest, like the Gaza protest. They're the ones who take that over. Anything, they take it over. And they print up all these posters and flags, which costs enormous amounts of money. Where do they get it from? Who knows? And they do this. Now, the majority of them will be like brainwashed upper middle class people, rich kids who, those types. And they're instinctively driven by a hatred of the poor. That's really what it's about. It's almost like the missionary thing, like this kind of. There's a dynamic within the missionary thing where the missionary is going to Africa to teach the people, the gospel. In reality, he's going to a bunch of savages he considers to be subhuman and is trying to raise them up into being human. Well, the kind of lefties, the extreme lefties who join the SWP, that's exactly what they're like. They see working class people, Dublin gutter snipe, as subhuman, tatty picking moron, whatever the fucker called me, the lefty who's not a bigot, Oh, I'm not a bigot. I'm a member of the anti-Nazi League. How could anyone ever possibly call me a bigot? I'm not a bigot, you tatty picking fat fuck. I'm not a bigot. I'm not a bigot. I'm left wing. I'm progressive, you Dublin gutter snipe. And you fuckers think you have you have it all, don't you? You think you got it all sewn up now. You think it's killing you because you never in the past could ever attract a real working class. They knew you were phonies a mile away. And then the rest of your constituency were people who are not joining you now. They're coming into the alternative movement. They're not interested in lefty politics. They've seen right through it. They know the whole thing is basically a scientific engineering system to run people like a battery farm, battery hens, and they've seen right through it, and it's over. You're gone. You're finished. It doesn't matter how many drums you bang, how many fake dreadlock wigs you have in Cambridge, how many false rape and sexual inappropriateness accusations you make against completely innocent men because you're disgusting, rotten creatures to your core. It doesn't matter. You've lost. Lies will not get you out of, the rat hole that you've sunk into. It's over. So go back to reading your Trotsky, a mass murdering psychopath. Go back to, calling everyone a racist, a Nazi, a bigot, a homophobe, a rapist. Go back to your internal rape committees. Imagine being a straight guy inside the SWP. You live in perpetual fear of some snooty-nosed bitch who has developed a weird sexual obsession with you, and you've no interest in her, waiting for her at any moment to accuse you of being a rapist. This is what it's like in that. This is like they have these purges every so often, and they have like these radical feminists in these organizations. Imagine being a straight guy in that. Imagine that. And then they wonder why the SWP Anti-Nazi League attracted such people of the caliber of Dennis Nielsen, a serial killing psychopath cannibal social worker, who, social worker. Oh, I got flack for that the other day for pointing out that the social worker agencies are deliberately, procuring nasty people. And if you go anywhere in the world, it seems to be the ones involved in family issues are all like, butch lesbians. I didn't make that law up, but I see them everywhere. There are people from all over the world telling me about them. It's a fact of life. So never trust a lefty, because what you're dealing with a lefty is the other end of a neo-Nazi. They're two symbiotic things. It's like the KKK and the Black Panthers. It's like the Hamas and the Zionists. It's the same thing. It's SWP, Nazis, Anti-Nazi League. They're the same people. They've converged back into the same focal point at the beginning, but the same personality types. One has just picked a different sort of platform to manifest their own neuroses in. That's all that goes on there. So, sorry, lefties, that game is over. You're not going to get the working class anymore. We don't want you.